Aye. Oh. Works.
It's 7 o'clock, but before I officially start, just a reminder, please speak all the way into the microphone, because part of the reason we're back here is so that we can be heard well on YouTube.
Check.
Well, thank you. So your practice will be during roll call. Ready? All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you would join me in a moment of silence. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sherry, will you do roll call? Eric Connor? Here. Cynthia Moore? Here. Will Carter?
Here. Here.
Art Snyder? Here. Craig Burke?
Here.
Jeff Vogel?
Here.
Jill Warner? Here. Okay, this is an open meeting and has been noted as such. Sean, were there any citizens' comments out there?
No, there were none, and there were no email citizen comments either.
All right, so I am going to move on to the approval of board minutes for December 21st, 2020, and the approval of voucher numbers 131207 to 131540 in the amount of $1.86 million and change, and receipts for December 2020 totaling $6.8 million and change. Any questions or concerns? They are approved by consent. We will move right into presentations. We do not have our student reps here with us tonight, so we are going to jump ahead to the FOMA check presentation. Do you want to come up to this mic right here? Sure.
Riff raff. You have to be tall enough to reach it. Here, seat up. Here, use this one.
Look at the announcer guy, can't make the microphone go. I think that was yours. Hey, thank you. My name is Chris Walker. I'm the current president of Friends of Mukwonago Athletics, or FOMA. For myself, the FOMA board of directors, and for most of the district, before I get into the presentation, I just want to say thank you to your board for all of your time and efforts over the past year. I'm sure it's been a little bit challenging. You guys don't get enough thanks for all of your time and effort, so I personally wanted to make that expression to you guys. Thank you for all of your time, efforts, and continued diligence over the past year with this craziness that's going on at the current time. So, as I said, I am the current president of Friends of Mukwonago Athletics. FOMA, Friends of Mukwonago Athletics, we do major fundraising for projects around the athletic community, including the fitness center at the high school, the locker rooms at the high school, the softball complex, track and field throwing area, also the multi-purpose turf was one of the major projects, obviously. And the most recent big project that we've done is the stadium entrance. I'm here to make a presentation on that tonight. In addition to that, we've kind of expanded a little bit of our role to include helping out some of the teams. Last year we donated about $5,000 to the gymnastic teams for a new practice floor for them. We also added about $5,000 or so to the soccer club for shelters for this year for the players that they can have on the sidelines, and also assisted the boys and girls basketball program recently in their Make-A-Wish free throw-a-thon campaign. We donated $1,000 to that for their goal to try to get to $50,000 for the Make-A-Wish program. So FOMA is a part of the Booster Club. We have been involved in over $1.5 million of projects here throughout the district. We work with the school board, obviously, through Andy Trudell on what the next projects are and what the ones we're going to work on. Right now, we still have a little bit of a balance left on the stadium project. With all this stuff going on, we haven't made a check presentation in a little while, but we'd like to do that tonight. So what we're doing tonight, we would like to make a check presentation for $20,000 for our part to the stadium entrance. So again, we appreciate your time and efforts.
Say somebody taking a
Would
picture.
like to come in?
Sean?
Yeah, the FOMA guys.
Eddie Banky is the Vice President of FOMA.
Hey, you guys are smiling, huh?
They're smiling with their eyes. Well, thank you to FOMA for your faithfulness and your diligence. It is greatly appreciated.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for coming. Okay, we are going to move into alternative pathways to graduation presentation, I believe with Christine and Stephanie.
You have to bear with me.
Do you want me to go over there?
No, it worked earlier. Sure. Okay. So our agenda tonight is to provide an update on SOAR and then look at some pathways for graduation and then wrap up by having Dustin Lehman talk with us about a potential new academy. So the board asked, keep going, I should just come over there. The board had asked for a review of SOAR, and I just wanted to kind of go over its original intent. So it was created to be a non-traditional learning environment with a blend of group and small group learning, and then personalized instruction for some of our more unique learning. This happens to me every single time. I am like traumatized. Okay, so it also serves as an in-district placement for students involved in the expulsion process or who would have otherwise been placed off of our MASD campus. And then also as part of the program overview, we create a support network of academic, emotional, and behavioral support, and then we continue to build those partnerships with local businesses. So our staff at SOAR, I know that all of you know Mark DeMay, but we also added Stephanie DeSalt this year. She came to us from Waukesha East. She's a special education teacher, and she's also an alternative education teacher. And then if you guys recall, back right before the pandemic, you approved a part-time social worker to be out at SOAR, and her name is Kristen Roberts. If you look in the packet, there is a letter attached for you just from Kristen. She just wanted to introduce herself and tell you some of the successes and impact she's had with students at SOAR. So currently we have 28 students that come between the morning and the afternoon session. 24 of those 28 students are seniors right now. SOAR has successfully graduated 32 students, including 3 fifth-year seniors at this time. As far as cost savings, we have, looking at alternative site placements, we've saved roughly $75,000 on alternative cost savings, as well as looking at next fall, there are some students we are looking at bringing back, and that would save us an additional $88,000. Oh, different clicker. Still broken. I did hit the arrow. All right. The SOAR staff created a feedback survey for parents and students. So we had a total of 38 responses. The largest group of feedback that we were able to gather came from our current students. So in the 56.8, we had about 21 students return responses. We had 5 current parents respond, 6 former students, and then 5 former parents. The purpose was to really get some parent and student voice on the impact that SOAR has had for them. And the next 3 slides are filled with that feedback. And so because I really think and support and value the student and parent voice at SOAR, I'm going to take just a moment to read those out loud. So what do our students have to say about SOAR? Before I joined the alternative program, I had already given up on graduating. I rarely attended school and never applied myself due to an anxiety disorder. After adjusting to the relaxed environment at SOAR and working with the amazing teachers, I quickly grew the motivation to not only attend school, but to do my very best on my schoolwork too. Without SOAR, I really do believe my life would have gone in a different direction. SOAR gave me hope. SOAR helped me and saw the potential in me even when I did not. Without SOAR, I would not be here today. Without SOAR, I would not have graduated and would not be where I am today. This program helps teens personally achieve their goals, realize the importance of life, and how to navigate through the realistic trials of life. This is an amazing program with an amazing director who cares about the importance of individual independence and self-respect to make your own life better. Without this program, I would not be the positive, amazing person that I am today. I owe it to SOAR. This school has really changed my life. I feel blessed to have had the opportunity to go to this school. First, I think the smaller environment really helps me focus and helps me stay focused on what I'm doing. There are less people to get into arguments with, but enough people where I don't have to feel alone. I love the interactions, especially with the teachers here. Best teachers out there at SOAR. It's really helped me to get back on track in life in a few ways. Last year, I really thought I wasn't going to graduate. I really didn't know where I was going to end up. There is a lot, but the big point in this school has been great for me. SOAR has really helped me throughout the last year and a half. When I was attending MHS, I felt stuck and didn't really know how to get myself out of situations. Then when I was granted the opportunity to attend SOAR, everything flipped. My grades, credits went up a lot, and they're still going up. Not only did it help me educationally, but mentally as well. I really appreciate everyone that works there and helps me to succeed. SOAR has been a benefit to me because I don't have to deal with other students or be around them in the silly drama. I get a lot of help here at SOAR that I didn't get at the high school. With SOAR being shorter days, I can focus on making money and going to school at the same time. I have less stress. Given the opportunity, SOAR has helped me tremendously. I'm able to work at my own pace. I have the majority of what I need to get done in front of me, which makes me more motivated. I also have lots of support from great teachers here. So just to add a little bit of additional feedback from our parents, SOAR helped my son above and beyond. I am so thankful he had the opportunity to be part of this program. SOAR was a great experience. The more one-on-one was great for him. He probably had his best year there. I know he really enjoyed going to the businesses to figure out what he wanted to do with the rest of his life. I liked it because he was more happy than when he went to the high school. I believe the staff, especially Mark DeMay, made a great impact on him. I think it's a great program. I could not imagine where my daughter would be without SOAR. She went from being not in school at all and getting into trouble with the law to being on track to graduate a semester early. She has career goals now and is working hard to reach them. This is the best program for kids who need a little less of a dramatic school setting to succeed and a great staff to fully support and encourage them. SOAR has allowed my son to actually participate and enjoy school again. 0 negative feelings on a daily basis is excellent. Very nice. In addition to the voice from students and parents, we wanted to take a look at what our post-secondary plans for our families had grown out of their attendance at SOAR. So we had, just to name a couple, we have a student who is going into an apprenticeship for electrician. We have some students exploring criminal justice. We have several students working in a variety of places that include assisted living facilities, going into concrete, becoming a realtor. And then also we have a couple of students who are looking to get a degree in social work or counseling, and I have to believe that their desire to go into a field like social work or counseling has a direct correlation to their experience at SOAR. So part of the committee at the high school in year 3, we wanted to take a look at how the student referral process was going. So a team of high school staff reviewed the criteria and focused on 5 areas. So the committee created a criteria checklist that included the following. There's an academic score that has credits, attendance, truancy, and then current school grades that feeds into that. There's an environmental score, which includes AODA concerns in a family, family dynamics, bullying, loss of a family member, or incarceration. We also look at the mental health perspective, if a student has been suicidal, inpatient, outpatient, or has AODA concerns. A physical health perspective, where we look at health and medical concerns, and then also looking at that social emotional behavioral. So looking at behavioral referrals, and then what does behavior look like in the community. So that is my update on SOAR. So before I move on to the next thing, does anybody have any questions?
Nice job.
Good. It is one of my favorite places to be. If you're looking for a place just to go and hang out and just, I don't know, they're great kids and it's a great staff. So kudos to all of you for approving that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the agenda, and the next part on the agenda was to discuss adding the GED 2 for the fall of 2021. So we did bring this to student learning in December and in January, and so today we're taking it to the full board for a vote. So just to kind of give you, I know you had all of this ahead of time, but just to give a little bit of a update to those who are listening. To be part of the GED 2 program, a student has to be 17 and behind at least 1 year academically. A student has to have a 9th grade reading level. There's a formal process to get into the GED program. It includes an interview. It looks at behavior, attendance expectations, and a student must self-select to be a part of the GED program. It can't be like something we want them to do. It has to be a student who's motivated to go ahead and enlist themselves in the GED option. Students must participate in an instructional preparation coursework, so the learning that they're doing, the instruction that they're still doing at MASD. They have to be continuously enrolled and attending school, so it can't be like a stop and start. They need to have a full commitment. Tests are taken at official testing sites, generally WCTC, and we would be paying for those as a district. Students with IEPs cannot be excluded, but they must have a current IEP that addresses any supplementary aids and services. And then DPI watches us very closely when you bring on the GED option 2, so you have to report yearly data that looks at our success rate. And then each student who would attend the GED option 2 would also still receive an MASD diploma. I also wanted to just review a few other work-related credit options when we're talking about college or career ready. So we do currently have some students that attend GPS, or the Generac alternative placement for students. So we're looking big picture to reduce the number of students at GPS and bring more of our students back into MASD, where they can continue to have partnerships with our teachers and staff. Right now we have current seniors who will finish out the year, and then current juniors will continue for next year. We are looking to create an approval system internally if a student is referred. So if a student really is the fit, like a really good fit for GPS, they would need to meet with Dustin Lehman to make sure that we have a full commitment and that they're really looking to invest in the quality of the education that they could get there in the job rotations, and not just looking to be somewhere else. Right now, we can't completely replicate all of the elements that GPS has to offer. There's some specific job certifications, but we are looking to bring those certifications potentially here, and Dustin will talk about that. We also have work seminar at the high school for 11th and 12th graders. That's a career-based class. They take employability, they get an employability skills certificate and a leadership certificate. We also continue to offer the youth apprenticeships, and that is a more targeted work experience. So for example, if a student wants to go into healthcare, they would be looking at doing a potential youth apprenticeship. And then Dustin is going to talk to us about his academy proposal.
It always worked that way with my students as well. You just have to stand by them, then the technology works. All right, well, good evening, everyone. It's been a while since I've been able to speak in front of you, and I look forward to that all the time because it's usually a positive thing that we're looking to add to our school district. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the next academy proposal that we have. So before I get into the one that we decided that we want to pursue, just a little recap. We have the IT Academy and we have the Academy of Medical Professions. So both of those academies are up and running. They're going strong. This year we just started our Academy of Medical Professions, and it is going well despite all of the restrictions that our students and our mentors have with placements in different work settings due to COVID restrictions. So in order for these academies to really be successful, it really has to do with those teachers that are the ones that really develop this. And I'll talk a little bit more about those. And when I mention mentors, that's these teachers. And those teachers are having to be very creative right now to make sure these students have these unique experiences. And they're just absolute rock stars during this entire time. So when I mention mentors coming up, those are those teachers that are not only teaching the classes, but are also doing all of the things on top of their teaching load to make sure these academies can continue to be successful and mentor their students. So a few weeks ago, I had the privilege of talking to the Student Learning Committee about 3 options for our next academy: skilled trades, business and marketing, and future teacher or future educator. So at the conclusion of that meeting, we decided that where we're sitting right now, we are best suited to pursue a skilled trades type academy. That's probably not going to be the name of it, but something that has to do with the skilled trades. And we also decided at that meeting that besides pursuing skilled trades, that we're not going to forget about the business and marketing or the future educator, because we do feel those are important, but that will be the next step as we continue to finalize our skilled trades. We'll be moving on to the next one after that. Okay. So why the skilled trades? Well, as you know, we have an amazing facility. We have an award-winning tech ed program now. We have a dedicated staff, and most importantly, a community in a region that really has a need for future skilled employees in the trades. We have current partnerships with local industry leaders that can help drive this. I think it's very important as we start to try to roll this out that we have a huge voice from the community on what skills our students will need to be successful. We have many unique opportunities for our students to experience the work-based learning. As Christine said, we have many students in a youth apprenticeship. Right now we're having to be very creative with how we can get students into some of these workplace settings, but every year we're growing that, and especially as part of our strategic plan for our district, getting students those industry-based certifications. And the biggest thing for me is we believe that this academy has the potential to reach all types of learners. If you look at the IT Academy and you look at the Academy of Medical Professions, a lot of the students that are in those academies have a plan for post-secondary. If they're going into those career fields, it's just natural that they need some sort of post-secondary certifications or education. The Skilled Trades Academy will definitely have students that have a plan for post-secondary, going to four-year schools, going to two-year schools, going to apprenticeship programs, but will also be very well suited for those students who have no plans for a post-secondary education, at least immediately after high school, but students that want to enter the workforce right away. So we really believe the plan that we have in place will be able to reach really all students. Okay, so I know you have the presentation in front of you, and there, these next 4 slides will kind of paint a picture of 4 students that we believe would succeed in this academy. I'll go in depth a little bit on the first and second one, but the third and fourth I'll try to skim over a little bit to save some time for you. Okay, so student number 1. I see this student a lot at Mukwonago High School. They are very successful in school. They get great grades. They're engaged in all of their classes. They're involved in a lot of extracurriculars. They have all the plans of going to a post-secondary institution, but never take a class within that skill set. So that may be engineering, that may be automation. They're taking calculus, they're taking high levels of math, they're doing really well, but they've never touched a mill or a lathe. And those are things that they're going to need to know how and understand how those work. We believe that this academy can be perfect for them. Okay. And as you look at the outcomes here, there's a lot of things that we feel like they will get from this. But one of the things that I feel can be decreased is the amount of time some of those students have sitting at a 4-year college trying to figure out what path they want to go to while wasting time getting towards a career and accumulating a lot of debt. So we're hoping, just like our other academies, that they can find those areas by connecting with industry professionals, by working with their mentors, really a path to start right away when they graduate from Mukwonago High School. Student number 2. Sorry, Sean. Student number 2. So this student has a specific learning disability in reading. Low self-efficacy, has a history of poor and or failing grades in core academic courses, difficult to engage in learning, and is interested in a career in construction. So I see those students all the time. This academy would be great for that student. Some of the things that would really benefit this student is really that connection to a mentor. I mentioned that the mentor is going to be huge in this process. Those are those teachers that teach the classes, that work with these students outside of the school day. They work with them outside of the classroom setting, and they have those conversations about their future, what's going to be beneficial for them, what classes they should take. They're the ones that see the student day in and day out. They know their strengths, they know their weaknesses. Those mentors play an enormous role in this. It's going to be an environment focused on what the student is interested in. So I've seen schools this last year implement geometry and construction class, or different core classes that are really focused on a specific skill set so that the student can really connect the learning, why they're learning what they're doing. So instead of sitting in a classroom, maybe they're in the wood shop and they're building trusses, they're building some geometric shapes, they're learning, but by doing. And some of these students, and this student number 2 particularly, would then see the relevance in what they're doing. That is what we're trying to build into this academy. Okay, so student 3 would be a female who has a 2.0 GPA. She struggles in math, extremely disengaged in class, is at risk of failing. Her family owns a construction company, but she's interested in becoming a welder. So we're looking at that type of a student going into this academy, finding welding as their niche, being able to take classes at Mukwonago High School through WCTC, have part of their post-secondary schooling already started, whereas school wasn't something that they thought they were going to do after high school. Now they see, I already have part of it done while being at Mukwonago High School. I know I can be successful in this. That's another student we think would be very successful with this academy. And number 4 is very similar to that. So in summary, we really think that this academy would serve all types of learners. The development of this academy would include members from multiple departments, so not just our tech ed program, but we will need specifically people from the special ed department, people from English, math, maybe an alt ed teacher. We believe that this is really going to be a wide range to meet all learning types. This academy would definitely be a different model than our other 2 in place. If you look at our IT Academy and our Academy of Medical Professions, students apply for it freshman year to start in the fall of their sophomore year. This academy, we're looking to reach those learners right away freshman year. So this hasn't been determined yet, but we're thinking that it would definitely be in partnership with the counselors at the middle school to help identify students that would really be successful in this academy. It may not all be application like it is with the other 2 academies. It may be by referral. But definitely it will be a different model. We don't know of a model like this in Wisconsin. So this is something that will be unique to Mukwonago as we continue to pursue this. Whereas the healthcare academy, that's being done in many places. So we were able to go out, see what works well, what doesn't. This is going to be unique to Mukwonago, so it'll take a little extra work. And again, this academy is obviously going to be amazing for our students, but I think it'll definitely be a benefit for our community as well, to connect those kids with those jobs, and to really help where our community is struggling, and it's those students, it's filling those like high-skilled positions in the trades. Okay, so that's the academy that we're looking at, but I wanted to just share a few celebrations. In talking about our tech ed program, they were the program of the year for the state of Wisconsin last year, and now this year we're recognized by the ITEEA, which is the International Technology Engineering Education Association, as a program of excellence. So we were supposed to get flown out to Denver and accept our award, taken out to dinner, but now we get to stay in Mukwonago and get virtually recognized for the achievement.
Congratulations.
Did they buy a fish fry and?
Yeah, we'll get a
At least
cousin
send your
party
gift
platter.
card for dinner. Yeah.
And then the next thing we wanted to celebrate too is, so that whole technology education wing, that is going to be newly renamed. It's going to be the Instrument Development Corporation, or IDC. Many of you know IDC and Matt Glush and the work he's been doing with our students. It'll be the IDC Industrial and Technology Center. So they're going to sponsor that entire area. So what that means is they've already donated multiple pieces of equipment for us. They've donated multiple, lots of materials for our students, as well as they want to partner with our students to start taking some of their product that they're creating there and having our students work on the equipment that they've donated that's the same between their shops and our shops, and have our students start creating projects for them so they can or projects that they have for clients. So really trying to create that partnership, making their learning real life. And then they've also have monetary donation to our program as well, so that our students can continue to learn at a high level with the materials that they are using for projects and whatnot. So huge shout out to IDC and Matt Glush and all the work that we've been able to accomplish with them. So does anyone have any questions?
Question. How were we found to be recognized to be awarded this program of excellence?
It's a great question. That was a great email I received one morning that we won this award. I believe probably because we were the program of the year in Wisconsin last year, that the members of ITEA in Wisconsin then nominated us to try to receive this program, or to receive this award. So we had to put together a little portfolio. They sent it in, and we found out a few weeks ago that we were successful in that.
How does industry or college university recognize the academy for what it is? What's the qualifications for that?
It's a great question. So right now, industry is going to be a huge piece of this, as well as post-secondary. So I definitely see working with WCTC, potentially Gateway as well, in developing this academy so we know what it is our students really need to be successful at that next stage. So as far as what they will recognize, like I said, I don't know of another school doing this right now. So it'll be very new. But when working with those partners and working with those universities, that's maybe when we can figure that out, how this can set our kids up for success.
Thanks.
Since we have the components here, like if a child doesn't have an IEP or someone to put them in a direction, how much time do the counselors actually have to work with the students to kind of go, okay, you're not doing so great, we need to start moving you in this direction, because I don't think they have enough time. That's one of the complaints I've had from a lot of senior parents, is that the senior kids have been kind of left to figure it out on your own. Decide what you need for the college, decide what you need for this and that. And they said the counselors aren't really giving directions. Like, you know, you need to go do this, you need to look at, you know, just different aspects of what the college offers. And
We do have time set aside every month for our academic and career planning, where we have lessons designed so that students are exploring what their options are post-secondary, whether that be working, 2-year school, apprenticeships, 4-year school. So they've worked, this year's senior class has been working the last 4 years towards a capstone project that lays that out, what they plan on doing once they graduate from Mukwonago. So that is how, that's how the students are exploring and trying to figure out what that is, besides just those conversations they have with their teachers, with their counselors.
okay, so the counselors do see all of that, and they have input with the students? Like, hey, you're looking at engineering, you need to go over here and take this class?
The counselors do meet with the students, yes.
Yeah, but do they really meet with the students and sit down and go over their schedules and look at what they're going to do in the future and start sending them in a direction, or do they just kind of go, okay, that's what you want to do?
So
I'm not sure what the,
I think if you take a look at what we have done in the last couple of years to address the mental health concerns, there's no doubt for our current seniors, as example, when they were freshmen and sophomores, they probably didn't get as much time with their counselors, because our counselors were spending a tremendous amount of time addressing mental health issues with our students. Those tend to be very time consuming, obviously very serious at times, and definitely need to be addressed. And so that's why we work so hard across the district to address the mental health issues. We've hired additional staff, and hopefully that's going to create some more time for our guidance counselors to provide that career counseling.
okay, that's what I was wondering, if we need to start looking at maybe getting them some help and some more.
Absolutely, that's something that we need to continue to work on. Yes, Mary?
Does anybody else have any questions or comments about all of it? So we have the GED, we have the program.
Yeah, so I do want to jump in and just say, we decided to present these together today, or tonight, because obviously they're two very different things, and yet for us, it is us exploring how we can make sure that every student who attends our system is finding a pathway to be successful, and that we're providing these things for them. And so we're asking for 2 votes tonight, one that would be on the GED, which would allow us to move ahead with our application process. Our meetings with the state are looking at curriculum materials to bring in that GED program for students that maybe are not going to reach credits in high school, but definitely have proficiency levels that would allow them to graduate from high school. And then we're also asking for a vote to move ahead on the Skills Trade Academy, which obviously you can hear the work that's going to go into this and the discussions that are going to need to happen, from reaching out to colleges and going to other schools that have parts of it that we want to put into place. And so we're asking for approval so we can start to dig into those discussions and the work.
Question, assuming, all approval is done with the Trades Academy, when would you expect that to really kick in?
So the timeline for the other academies have been about 18 months. So I'm gonna shoot for that 18-month mark. So that would be the fall of 2022. However, since we kind of had with the Healthcare Academy especially, we had a model in the IT Academy to really replicate. With this, we definitely want to accelerate and put a lot of time and effort into this right away because we want to be able to reach all of those students. So we're gonna stick with that 18-month window. But it'll be tough.
And will it be possible for kids to jump into it in sophomore, junior?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a big piece of the academies we have now, that the onboard and offboard process can happen at any stage. So the main thing is really finding what that kid or what that student is really passionate about, and then we can get them into that capstone type environment where they're working with industry professionals in that trade. They're out in the job sites trying to learn those skills, and that can take place senior year, that can take place sophomore year. So we're really hoping that fall of 22, the graduates of the 23 class can take advantage of it. And on the way to officially having this academy running, we're doing a lot of these things anyways. So this is a nice way to organize it, to really have things in place for families so they know how their student can be successful with this. But we're doing work-based learning already. So it's really just a matter of, as we are building this, bringing those options forward to our students. I could use so much more room.
Staffing, are you going to see a staffing requirement change?
One of the staffing conversations that we had is we do foresee a alternative education teacher at some point to be able to work on a lot of the things that both Christine and I had talked about. But like with our Healthcare Academy, with our IT Academy, we have English teachers. We have other teachers outside of the academy that are part of it that are already Mukwonago High School teachers. So I would say the overwhelming majority of the staff that are going to be a part of this are Mukwonago High School employees already, because they're the ones that are going to be working alongside of me and industry to make this happen.
For the GED program, though, we definitely have talked about an alternate education teacher and have engaged in conversations with Tom regarding budget in that. I can't say at this point that would be cost neutral, that we're going to find that person in our own staff, but clearly that would need to be approved by the board if as we look at our numbers, we need to build that in.
Sherry, your microphone's not on.
You had mentioned that there was a cap on how many.
Yeah, only 15 students a year can be part of the GED program. That's a DPI policy, which is a good one in order to support them well.
Are there any other questions that you need answered? Because if you're okay with it, I'd like to jump to those two action items right away. So we do two separate motions, one for the GED 2 program first.
I'll make a motion to approve the GED program as presented.
I have a motion by Andy. Do I have a second? Second. And Jill, a second. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then I would also need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that they move forward with the academy.
With the Skilled Trades Academy. Motion by Art.
I second it.
Everybody seconded.
Okay, and a group second. I don't know if that's allowed. So somebody flip a coin and just pick somebody. Okay, any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm guessing none opposed. Great. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
presentations and for all the work you've already
Thank you,
done.
ladies.
Thank you guys for your
Justin.
time, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will jump into committee updates. We'll start with Student Learning Committee. Sherry?
Okay, let me just get to my. Okay, well, as you could listen, we had these presentations, and we felt that so many of you had asked about SOAR and asked about different things that you would appreciate having them brought to the full board, so we brought them here today. We also talked about some policies, and we passed, there was no changes that we just kind of passed them through, right?
No, yep.
Okay, that's what I thought, because I had read through all the policies they were going to change, and they didn't. And then we talked a little bit about the blocking of social media sites, and Stephanie shared with us what we can and can't do, and that we talked about that some. We talked about the social study pilots and the trainings for those pilots that are happening now because it's the social studies cycle. And then we talked a little bit about the virtual school direction for 21-22, and they're going to come back with us next month with information on that. At this point, it's looking like they would like to continue the high school and start there and go from there.
Yep,
Is
lots
there
of
anything
discussions to come.
Yeah, is there any, I think that's it.
Okay, if no questions, we'll move on to Personnel Committee update. Andy?
We talked about some policies that had nothing earth-shattering in them for changes. The Coronavirus Response Act. Sean, do you want to touch on that?
Susan's here.
Susan?
Right here.
Perfect. I didn't see you sneaking in there. My apologies.
That's okay. So I just provided you with an update on the numbers of staff that were affected by the, during the first semester. And you can see that November was the worst month, as we knew that. I guess what was really surprising was that out of the over 650 employees that we have, 351 leaves were taken with a total of 1,700 days. So we knew it was a lot. We just knew that it was just more than we thought. And so it was nice to put a number to it, and I think our staff is to be congratulated because out of the number of days that staff had to be quarantined, 838 of them, 862 hours rather, 862 of those days, teachers taught virtually. And that was a great testament to be able to keep instruction going and really keeping kids on track. So I think that's to be celebrated in that. And then you can kind of see, we talked about extending leave now through March 31st due to workplace exposure. And so I did a look back in looking at what can we kind of expect as far as how many we might have. So the only way I could do that was really to look backwards. And in looking at the number of leave due to workplace exposure from August through December, you can see it was very few. So I'm really not expecting a great amount of leaves that will be due to workplace exposure. I think the fact that we have effective PPE in place, we're doing social distancing, masking, et cetera, is really reducing the amount of workplace exposure. The great majority of it is happening from the outside. So, questions?
And then we got a COVID-19 update.
Okay.
We're in good shape, and I'm going to leave it at that.
I like that.
Good. We like a nice short one. Anything else from personnel?
No.
Okay, and then we'll move on to Finance and Facilities Committee.
All right, in finance and facilities, we talked about membership projecting going up about 50 students FTE next year. We talked about the equalization aid projections. Tom will briefly go over that.
So I gave a projection on equalization aid without an influx of money from state government in the next biennial budget, which is pretty early to have this conversation. The most we could lose from one year to the next is 15%. So if the imperfect storm occurs and our assumptions are met, then we're gonna build a budget that assumes we'll get the least amount of aid from the state. It can only get better from there, so we're gonna plan for the worst and hope for the best.
All right. We went over the tax levy projection, which we're hoping remains close to stable, the same. Do you want to talk about that at all, briefly?
Sure, yeah, I presented a range of scenarios that used membership growth of 0, 50, and 100, and then coupling that with the equalization aid being at the minimal level from the state for next year. I gave a range of tax levies and mill rates. The lowest mill rate was $7.88, which is 12 cents lower than where it's at right now, and the highest was $8.14. So I have great reason to believe that our overall tax levy will be at or less than what it was this year, and the mill rate will likewise be in the same neighborhood as to where it's at.
And then we went over the 2021 budget review.
Yep, there's no concerns. I reviewed the budget for this current year. I have no concerns to share with anybody at this time.
We talked briefly about unpaid student fees, and you're bringing back more information on that one, right?
Yeah, so the game plan there is to bring a student fee manual that will outline our action plan for what we'll do for administering student fees and our efforts to collect unpaid student fees and our efforts that what that will look like. So I plan to bring that to the Finance Committee and get board approval in either February or March.
Okay. And then we just looked over the IDC logo that's going down the engineer. That's already been approved in the past, so there's no action item on that. And that's it.
Any questions for finance and facilities? Okay, then we will move right into action items. No appointments. We do, never mind. So we have retirements, resignations.
So we don't have any appointments, but we do have some retirements. And so this sort of kicks off the bittersweet retirement season for us when our staff starts to announce that they'll retire at the end of the school year. And we really have some special, outstanding staff members on the list tonight. So first, Bonnie Hahn, longtime social studies teacher at Parkview Middle School. Meg Graham, world language teacher at Mukwonago High School. You can see Meg has 34 years of service. Cindy Harris, who currently is a 6th grade teacher at Big Bend Elementary. She has 19 years of service. And then Ruth Peters, who's an instructional assistant right now at Parkview, 24 years of service. So we are really happy for all 4 of those individuals, but they will be missed. Really some outstanding people there.
I'd like to make the motion to approve.
So Mary with the motion, Andy with a second. We want to thank them all for their many years of service. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Neola policy updates. Could you have given us any more policies to read? I'm just wondering.
No, I probably could not have. So the one policy, the first one, 5330, the administration of medication policy, that one is actually one we reviewed at the Personnel Committee, and we did have a minor change there that we're recommending, and that has to deal with the CBD products. And so we've had a few policies that we've reviewed and changed the last couple of months. And so other than that, the rest of the policies are recommendations from Neola. And again, those are language changes, law changes that Neola recommends. I meet with Richard Zimmern for about 3 hours, and we review all of these, and he explains why Neola is recommending that we make those changes. And so as usual, we put them in here. You take a look at them. If you're comfortable with approving those changes, we waive the second reading. But if there are any concerns, we pull them out, we bring them back to the committees or to the full board for a more thorough review.
So I actually personally would like to start with 5330 because at personnel where it came up, I actually heard what I thought wasn't going to be the policy. So to recap, if you didn't look at it, it's saying that CBD products are not allowed on campus, period. It is also part of the description of the policy where Tylenol, ibuprofen, any over-the-counter medication is not supposed to be on the student's person. It's supposed to be in the health room with a signed consent form from the parent saying that they are allowed to take this. They'd have to come to the health room and ask for it. I was under the impression that 5330 was going to say the same, say the same thing for CBD as a parental choice. In its original label was the discussion, because it had been FDA approved as CBD, products that were third-party tested. So I was under the impression that was coming back, and I just kind of missed it when I heard it at personnel.
Actually, I recall it being that way as well, Erica.
So if you could clarify maybe where the communication changed between the last 2 months?
So I'm not sure. I remember having a conversation. I explained that the WIA didn't allow CBD products. I'm not sure where the miscommunication is, but we can bring it back to personnel and have that.
The WIAA doesn't for
Correct.
its athletes, and yet what about the general population? If parents are allowing that in expressed consent in the health room, and it's in the health room in its original packaging, why would that not then be permitted?
We checked with our medical advisor, and he recommended that we don't allow them. If you guys want me to look into it more, this was what I thought we had discussed, and we had recommended that we weren't going to have CBD products. As a matter of fact, if you recall, last month we reviewed for our staff, and we recommended the same thing, and you guys approved that. So I guess I'm a little confused myself. So
Yeah, me too.
Let's
Was
take it
anybody
back.
else thinking along my lines, or maybe I was just the
I
odd vote
remember
out?
what you said because we talked about labels.
And we had discussed about the fact that it was FDA, and so definitely it was not no CBD at all, 0. That was not what was said.
However, this definitely goes on majority vote.
I hate to be the one that understood you.
I would say kick it back to personnel, and we'll review it there.
Well, unless the majority here tonight doesn't want CBD in the building at all. I'm not saying that I'm advocating for CBD to be in the school on its own merit. What I'm saying is that I believe that if we allow for other over-the-counter medications that parents give permission for, I don't quite understand how this is different.
Okay, on this product specifically, there are multiple ways that CBD is part of over-the-counter, from cosmetics to creams that you can buy anywhere. So if I have a cream that I'm using that it has CBD in it, are we saying that falls in this policy and is not allowed?
That would be my
I
understanding.
mean, that's the way I'm understanding.
yes,
And this is a recommendation, Neola, that we approve it this way.
no, this policy is the one, 5330, we reviewed at the Personnel Committee.
I know, I'm just rethinking the fine print, and that gets pretty crazy. I mean, this stuff is everywhere, and it doesn't mean it's bad, because it is FDA approved, so. I
It
just
also
wanna make
doesn't
sure
mean
that-
it's good, and I'm not making a
Yeah.
judgment call on it, because
Right.
while we all think ibuprofen is fine, it also damages the liver. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, there are costs that people count every single day in making their decisions for themselves and their family. I'm just not sure if this is one that we make for them. I don't know.
Yeah. I just don't want us to happen to be policing something all the time. Is it going to cause a problem? Because it's in hand lotion. It's everywhere. So I realize the intent of the policy is to prevent abuse or something that could be misconstrued. A child tries to sell it because they think it's going to be, some miracle drug, but it's becoming pretty common. So how do we manage that and not be in a police state all the time? Just want to make sure we've thought it through.
And then, not on the CBD part, but just looking at the green part in here, in the parentheses, it mentions aspirin, ibuprofen, dietary supplements, CBD oil products, and so on. Would that kind of be all-encompassing of things like acetaminophen and things like Aleve, which are also pain relievers but aren't specifically identified here? Was the intent to kind of just have that be a part of that category?
I think that's,
Okay, I just want to make sure.
yeah.
No, into your microphone, sorry. So, I mean, we can take a vote on it tonight, or we can send it back to personnel. what is,
Sounds like some more discussion needs to be more discussion.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah, I think we.
That's no
So-
issue. That's a
yeah,
problem.
we'll just,
We'll bring it back.
hopefully one more month's worth
Let's
of
make sure.
discussion,
Yeah.
so that we're
That's all
all
I'm saying, is
comfortable.
let's make sure.
Yep, I got your input here, and we'll have that discussion.
Okay, so I actually have a small list of policy questions. Sorry, guys, I'll go really fast. 2460, students with disabilities. Christine, I know you're still here. It references a handbook that we need to adopt annually. Is this something that we currently have? And do we adopt it annually if we do have it? Because I don't recall seeing it yearly.
I can provide you with this Wisconsin State handbook for students with disabilities.
So that's the one that we're adopting, just the state one?
That's what I would recommend, yes. I can provide you a copy, though. I will send one to you.
Because is that something that would be happening at the board level, right? We would be voting on, or are we doing that and I am missing it?
I think, Erica, what you're asking is, because we've talked about it before, if we have a policy, we should be following the policy. So I think Erica's not criticizing what that booklet would be, it's just whether or not we do what
We
we're
actually
saying
do
we're
what the
gonna do.
policy is asking for. And that's what I was just saying, like, oh, do we have an existing students with disability handbook?
Yes, I will print you one out from the
Thank
state
you.
of Wisconsin.
You can, if it's digital, I'm happy to see it virtually.
Perfect.
Same with accountability reports. I don't know, if that's 2,700, I'm trying to get to it. It says that has to be presented every single year to every parent with a student in the district. Are those accountability reports somehow provided currently to every single parent?
Yes.
And how does that happen?
And so those are the policies that we discussed. I can't remember, did we bring those back? Did we have that discussion at Learning Committee? So those would be on our website, and so we can share that information with you also.
So we're considering it being available on the website provided to each parent.
Yep, and then
Okay.
each year, at the start of the year, we send a letter home to parents, and they refer to, we explain that you will find this information at such and such website.
Okay, 3215, which is the tobacco and nicotine one. Imitation tobacco is defined with Big League Chew as listed as an imitation tobacco product, as well as shredded beef jerky. I just kind of was like, are we being a little bit ridiculous?
Yeah.
But how do you,
Yeah.
how does an administrator or teacher know that's
What's
what they?
in there?
If you open it up and it's pink,
I guess my concern was that it was listed as a violation of this policy. Like,
how can bubble gum violate?
so I understand what they're getting at. They're going for the optics. I mean, candy and chocolate cigarettes were listed in there too, and I get it. They're also all candies sold in the cute little candy shop right here in Mukwonago, that I don't want it to become like, it just seems a little vague, maybe a little too far. I don't know. I understand the intent. I'm just not sure on the feasibility of it. If a kid shows up at a basketball game with Big League Chew, I would assume we can use some common sense in that. However, it's specifically listed as a violation of our nicotine policy.
So I can read to you what
their
Neola is
rationale?
recommending. So they say these policies are revised to incorporate more comprehensive terms recommended by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services and to incorporate language that permits the application of the policy prohibitions to the broad range of devices, cigarettes, vaping, Juul, including those not yet known. The revision also includes an option that authorizes school officials to regulate attire that displays tobacco or nicotine products. So evidently, that was not a change. Which number are we on?
So we're on 3215, where it's
3215,
like
hang on.
all green. So in my mind, this was all new. And
Let's bring it to learning or personnel. We'll review
I guess
it.
I kind of, and we can take it to learning. It's more of one of those things I'd just like us to be aware of, that if we're going to adopt this policy, the nuance is there, that I feel like it's worth stating.
Well, and do we have the right to change these wording in these policies, or do you either accept them as they are or not?
You can make changes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
you don't have to accept
Not
any of these
remembering what
changes,
So we could strike
We don't usually change
But-
a lot of stuff.
but let's,
Yeah.
so this is a replacement policy. We already have a tobacco nicotine policy. I think it's combined with another one. Let us bring that one to whichever committee you want it at, and then we'll compare and contrast. You want it at learning committee?
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Learning
Okay.
committee is fine. Okay, one more, and I'll be done. 8395, mental health services. As you read over this policy, nowhere except for in terms of paying for these services is parental consent actually clearly stated. So my question about this policy is waiver of indemnification agreement and consent release of information. Is that I'm assuming there's parental permission given in that form, and is that the only place that we are asking for parental consent for mental health services to be provided through us or our partners?
So I don't have the policy in front of me, but when I'm thinking about consent, if our parents or our students work with an outside agency or a pediatrician or a therapist, we have to do what's called a release so that we get permission for the providers to talk to each other. So us being the school as a provider and them being a private agency, to have that communication, and parents do need to approve that.
So that's for their already put into place providers to speak with some of ours. Let's pretend that part doesn't exist, and it's just a student taking advantage of or being in part of some of the services that we offer in the high schools or with our partners. What's the process our parents identified? Is there permission involved? Well, I only ask, I would assume there is, but I only ask because it's not specifically or clearly stated in this policy. Until it says, and parents will have to pay for it. So I want to make sure that there's some form of parental consent because it talks about administrator, superintendent, and director of pupil services. And it doesn't specifically come out and say parent or guardian.
We'll bring it to personnel.
Thank you. And then I am assuming that typos and incorrect language is fixed by Neola.
Yes.
Okay, because there's little words that need to be gone over in a number of them, which I can bring your attention to later.
That would be great.
Yeah, like the word retain legal
That's fine.
counsel instead of
Really
remain
small.
legal counsel, things like that I think need to be made
It'll be
sure.
cleaned up.
Okay,
I have a question on, I'll see which number this one is. It's the one for English language proficiency, 2260.02. So I read, and I kind of looked through.
Sherry, we can't hear you. Can you speak in front?
I read and we kind of looked through, and is this all Neola's rewriting of this? Because it's totally rewritten, and it's totally has different people who are handling that situation, and I just wanted to be sure that that was accurate. It started out with superintendent, and now it's director of pupil services, and it's just, everything is gone and everything else is, so I didn't know if that's just the standard state one, or.
Sherry, what number is that?
So 2260.02?
20s,
What page?
it is 2260.02. It is, where does it tell me which page?
It's kind of in the, if you scroll, it's in the top left hand corner, at least on mine.
I can tell you what Neola is saying. So provisions which were previously detailed in the corresponding administrative guidelines have been incorporated into the policy to comply with the requirement of PI 1305 that boards adopt a policy incorporating the provisions addressed. Corresponding administrative guideline is deleted. These revisions are required to comply with applicable regulations.
Okay.
The adoption of these revisions is recommended for legal compliance. So that's one I would recommend that we move forward with without further discussion, but happy to bring it back and discuss it. At committee level, it's no problem.
No, it was just so different than what we had been doing apparently, that I thought it was worth looking at.
So it's a legal recommendation.
Any other policy questions or discussion? Okay, then I am going to make a motion to waive the second reading on all of the policies except for 5330, 3215, and 8395.
That's what I have, yes.
Do I have?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the second reading has been waived, and I will make a motion for the approval of all of these policies with the exception of 5330, 3215, and 8395.
I'll second.
I have a motion and second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And if I may, I'm comfortable with whatever your preference is. So twice a year, we get these Neola recommendations. Sometimes there are some special updates in addition to those twice annually. So if you want to do that process differently, I'm all ears. If you want us to bring...
It's fine. I was just giving you
Okay.
a hard time because it's 81 pages worth of policy that I know everybody read all of.
That was less than Tom's audit report and
It
budget
was.
presentation, I might add.
Touche.
No, he looks a bit confused and thrown under the bus. All right, well, we're going to move on from policy then and go to the 2021 calendar modification proposal.
So if you recall back in November, I did come and ask the board to approve a modification to the calendar schedule due to our trimester switches in our virtual and in-person learning environments. We had, I believe it was 48 students at that time that were leaving our virtual setting, K-6, and moving back into buildings. We again have another trimester switch coming up. I am expecting, but again, guess is as good as anyone, that we may see more of our K-6 students returning to buildings at this point in time. If so, I am asking again, hopefully the last time this crazy year, but that we do have a day, a professional day for our staff to get ready for these switches. I will tell you that the date that we had in December, I think it was Friday, December 4th, absolutely our teachers would say, both in our virtual setting and in our face-to-face setting, was really essential to make sure that they were ready to have those students come back, both in discussions between the teachers, IEP time that needed to happen for our special ed students coming back, plexiglass that needed to be brought back into class or brought into classrooms to make room for more students, name tags that needed to be made at kindergarten and first grade for hooks and classroom to make sure that that student came back feeling welcomed and part of the community. And so we have another date coming up, and I am asking at this point that you give permission that if the numbers warrant, as we watch, we're opening it up next Monday, February 1st. The period will go through, I think it's Tuesday, February 16th for our parents to elect that last trimester K-6, that if the numbers warrant, and we feel to best support students, that we would need to take the day that we would take off Monday, March 8th, as just a K-6 day this time. Our 7-12 students would still come in and not have that day off, but it would be for our K-6 environment. I don't take lightly any time that we take instructional time, especially this year, away from students, but I do believe that that day off and giving the time for the teachers to prepare definitely best sets us up for our students to be successful for that last trimester. So again, I'm not asking that you would say a definite yes at this point, but as we see the numbers come in, that we could announce that day as a non-student contact day if we needed to prepare based on the numbers.
How quickly after the close of the registration option would you hope to decide? Because that's a 2-week.
I think we could make the decision before the date closes, February 16th. Last time we saw the numbers come in pretty fast and kind of knew we weren't going to be, you know, we kind of were able to judge what we were thinking was going to happen.
I'd like to make motion we move ahead with this proposal.
Okay,
A
I have
second.
Motion from Art and a second,
I
Terry,
just
was that you? A second.
One question.
Yep, question.
Do they have the hours built in? They won't have to make this day up, or are they gonna be making this day up?
So at this time, we would not have to make it up because elementary has hours sufficient
Enough, but
to not have to make it up. Obviously, it could change if we have snow days between now and then, but I'll just add, that
That was Sean.
there is a waiver with the DPI again for instructional hours, as there was last year because of COVID. And so if we are short, we can apply for that waiver.
okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 21-22 school year calendar.
So I shared this calendar proposal with you in November or December. We haven't made any major changes, but we are looking to have the 21-22 school year calendar approved, and I have the staff calendar and the parent calendar there for you.
Can you remind me why this year we did not have off school for MLK Day, but it is proposed for next year?
That's part of our equity efforts.
Okay. Any other questions on the calendar?
I'd like to make a motion, we approve this calendar.
We have a motion from
Yeah.
Art. Do I have a second?
Second.
Andy, second. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. 21-22 open enrollment seats.
Okay, so each year in January, we're required to inform the DPI how we'll proceed for open enrollment requests for the following year. And so we are not making any changes with our recommendations as far as regular education open enrollment requests. And so at the elementary level, we're confident we'll have space available at each grade level as long as parents are not going to request a specific school, as long as there is some flexibility. So for example, if they have a first grade student, we might not have room at Clarendon, but we're confident we would have it at Big Bend or Rolling Hills. At each of our 7 grade levels, 5K through 6. Parkview and the high school, we should be able to accept all regular education open enrollment requests. And that's exactly our process for the last several years.
We
And,
will have closed for special ed.
I didn't know if you wanted to do it one at a time, but then for special education students, for the 3rd consecutive year, we would not be able to accept special education open enrollment requests. And Christine is here to answer any questions that you might have, but she did a really nice job in her memo sharing how that process, what process was used to determine the lack of space.
I have a question. In looking at what you provided, there are some that are over the recommended. How far over the recommended do we get before we need to do something different?
Well, the recommendation is there's a difference between the Waukesha County recommendation and then the state recommendations.
Okay.
So I can give you an example. So for example, speech and language pathologists at the state level is like a 1 to 45 ratio. Here we don't have our speech and language pathologists work at that high of a caseload. So the Waukesha County recommendation that's on there. This is the first time I have not printed a board packet. So I don't have it in front of me right now.
Yes, the one I have in question.
Which one do you have a question about?
Okay, there's 2 in question, and one is the recommended middle school special education case manager staff, because we're 3 over there. And the second one is the high school, and we are 4 over on that student staff ratio.
So keep in mind at the high school level, some of the students that are on caseloads are students who are alternatively placed and we need to continue to monitor, or are students who are perhaps at WCTC and then still have a caseload, still have a manager, or they're at GPS and they still have a manager for their IEP. So that can account for some of the high school, but the high school numbers are high. They're sitting on the higher edge, and so we have to continue to monitor our enrollment. Those numbers are always sort of in flux depending on when students qualify for special education and or if students move into the district.
I guess the main thing is, are you comfortable with the staffing we have for our students, our current?
I am comfortable right now. I think it's something that every spring we have to look at and adjust. So
It wasn't more calling you out on it, it was.
Oh, you
more
can
of
call
if
me
you-
out. I'd be okay with that too. But I do have a booklet, Erica, since you asked.
You are quick. I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Couple hundred of these, so you
Okay.
can have a copy.
Wonderful.
Do you have any other questions?
Okay, so we are looking for two separate motions for this, or can it be
Ye-
done
Yes,
one?
no, we do need two separate motions, regular education, special education, then we have one third piece, and that is, because the way our policy is written, do we want to guarantee, first, students who are currently enrolled in our district, move out of the district, and want to stay in our schools? So they would have to apply for open enrollment to stay. Do we want to guarantee that they can stay? And then a similar situation would be if we accept an open enrollment student this year, and then they have a sibling down the road that would like to attend our schools, and they apply via open enrollment, do we want to guarantee that we will accept that student, even if we don't have space in the school that they want to attend? So last year was the first year that we had to address this issue. And we asked, the administration had asked for the flexibility with those two scenarios, that we will do our very best to allow students who are currently attending, move away to attend our schools. And we'll do our very best to accept open enrollment students, siblings of current open enrollment students who apply down the road, but we just cannot guarantee it.
Did you have a question?
That's what, well, I thought that I do recall a conversation about this before, I mean, months and months ago, but I think the word we said, well, we wouldn't guarantee, right? Give preference, but not guarantee.
That's correct.
Okay.
I'd say we keep it that way.
Okay, so then it would be three separate motions, a regular ed, a special ed, and then a
And then
open enrollment, preference but not guarantee?
Correct.
Okay, so you need a motion for the first, for open enrollment for reg ed.
I'll make the motion.
I will second. Mary, first, I'll second. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion carries. Second is for the approval of open enrollment for special ed.
I make that motion.
Jerry, we have a first.
Second?
Joel, second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And third, I will make a motion that we attempt to give preference to open enrolled students that currently attend our schools but may move out of the district, or students who are open enrolled and have siblings coming up in the future. We cannot guarantee, but we will do our best.
Motion.
Second. I was the motion.
Oh.
Andy, you're the second. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, and then we will roll right into the 2019-20 audit report.
Chuck Krieger from Hawkins CPA joined us last Monday at the Finance Committee. He presented the audit report. We're looking for permission from the school board to accept the audit report as presented.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Craig and a second from Cherry. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We also have the 21-22 budget assumptions.
So I brought the budget assumptions to the committee last Monday. I'm looking for permission from the board. With your permission, I'll use these budget assumptions to bring back a budget forecast for next year and the following 4 years at the next meeting in February. So it's hard to move forward in building that budget unless there's assumptions that are agreed upon. So I've made recommendations, and they are before you tonight. If there's any questions about those, I can answer those. If not, I'm just looking for permission to use those assumptions to begin building our budget.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Andy and a second from Craig. Any other questions from anybody on these assumptions? None? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. 2021 teacher compensation.
So the Teachers Union did accept the last proposal here that was in front of us for base wages up to 1.81% as a group, so they did accept that. There's a memo or a contract that will require signature from Erica and Cherry. So it's already been approved by the board, but with the signatures going on, I don't know if you wanted to take action here. By all means you could, or you can, I just want to make sure that you guys knew that they did accept the offer.
So if we took action, we would be accepting their acceptance?
Correct.
Yep.
Which I think was implied
Our,
upon,
Right.
Yep.
so I think we're good.
I think
Unless
you are
somebody
good.
really wants to vote on it.
I think you're okay without
I
it.
think we're good. But thank you. And then we already did the GED 2 and skilled trade, so we're gonna head into unfinished business with superintendent's report.
So my first topic of discussion was the vaccinations, and I did give you an email update on the vaccinations. I wanted to see if anybody had a question. We did make some progress with getting, we have over 700 staff members in our district, and that first initial group, our nurses, our health assistants, and our backups to the health room, they were vaccinated. Then we started the second group last week with appointments, and that group is occupational therapy, physical therapy, special education teachers, and special education instructional assistants that perform medical procedures. That group can make appointments to get their vaccinations. In Waukesha County, there are about 800 people in that group, and Waukesha County Health Department was able to partner with a number of different providers to get about 200 of the 800 of those people scheduled for vaccinations. Now, today, with the 65 and older group starting to make their vaccination appointments, the school staff effort has sort of been put on the back burner. So we do anticipate that to slow down for a while until we get more vaccinations. So it's going to be a slow process. I guess that's my summary. Didn't know if anyone had a question or concern about that at this time.
I am curious as to the language that is being used as it's going out to our staff about the vaccine. So for those in that kind of tier 1A that have already been vaccinated, how is that being communicated to them? Are we telling them it is available to you if you want it? Are we, what is the
right.
verbiage we're using? Are we using the word required? Are we not?
No, we're not requiring vaccinations. We've made that clear. So we have surveyed our entire staff to see if they are interested in getting the vaccination or not. So no requirement. We won't mandate that vaccine at any time in the near future. So the FDA has approved on an emergency basis the vaccinations or vaccines on an emergency basis. And until they have full-fledged approval, we won't approach that topic of mandating it. And we'll have a conversation with you guys before we do that.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So I would assume that there are many teachers who are in this category that won't just be waiting for Waukesha County to do the vaccination process because they could or could not be part of another healthcare system, because every healthcare system is contacting their patients and everybody's doing it differently. But it's from, you know, pick and save to Meyer to this and that. So do we have a process in place where if a teacher or any of these people have the opportunity to be vaccinated, I'm assuming they're going to take whatever first one comes in front of them, and then are they going to let you know so that you can properly communicate back to the county so there's no duplication, because obviously one vaccination opening up to somebody is
Yes.
real important. To
So
any
we have,
community.
the school nurse, Trish Heller, has, and I have been developing spreadsheets and tracking methods so that we know, first of all, who's interested in getting the vaccinations and who is not. So we have yeses or nos from each of them. And then we have them broken into tiers the best we can as far as what we think the priority will be for Waukesha County. And then we are following up with them. So for example, when the county said we could go ahead with OTPT and speech and language, we contacted each one of those individuals and said, yes, you are interested. And then if you have already gotten it, let us know. When you make your appointment, let us know. So like one of our individuals is involved in a part-time position somewhere else in healthcare. She had already received her first vaccination. We recorded it. So we know we're kind of, to the best of our ability, tracking who's already gotten it and who hasn't.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to just keep it flowing and no duplication.
Yes.
Anybody else? Okay. Strategic plan update.
So just want to let you know that we'll be back next month because we had so many items on the agenda this month that we did not bring information on the strategic plan, but you should plan on that in February.
All right, what about CDC travel?
Oh, yeah, here she is. Yep, Susan's here to talk about that.
Okay. So originally when we talked about CDC travel, it changed drastically in the last couple weeks. And basically, if you were to go on the CDC website and look at the world map, almost the entire map has now turned to the highest level of risk possible, with the exception of China and parts of New Zealand. So, but the whole world, the point is, basically the CDC is saying it is a high risk to travel domestically or internationally. So we have let our staff know that is, that is the current CDC restriction. During the personnel committee, we kind of talked a little bit about travel and whether or not we should, talk about restricting travel and such. And I think the discussion is at this point, and I'll leave it over to you, Sean.
Yeah, so from what I heard at the Personnel Committee meeting was that you were not comfortable with us mandating quarantines when our staff or our students return from travel after spring break. And so I'm just making sure that the rest of the board is on the same page. We do not want to communicate that without your blessing.
Have we had any instances where we know of people that have traveled outside some distance from the state domestically and then returned and there was a test or have been
How could you prove where they got it, Jeff, though?
I don't know. I'm just asking the question. I don't know.
All night long.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just asking
Jeff,
a question.
To answer your question, not that I'm aware of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We do know that many people traveled over Christmas break. I think the big change is that the CDC recommendation, or not everything was read then, and it is now. So does that change how we approach it as a district?
Well, we went to Florida at peak season. And we flew there, and we went to Disney every day, and we never got it. Not one of us. Dave went to work and brought it home. So, and it was a week in Florida, and you're around people, but we took precautions and did what we were supposed to do, but, just because they travel doesn't mean that's where they're getting it.
Well, and those states or those countries that are red, isn't the requirement a negative test before you can come back into the country?
Yes, so since we spoke at the Personnel Committee meeting,
travel.
that's not interstate, but that is international
Or Mexico.
travel. So for international travel, yes, before you can get back into the country, you're going to have that negative test. But again, we know the guidelines may change between now and spring break, but we know a lot of families and staff members are making plans at this moment or right now to go on spring break, and they probably have made them already. And they're asking us now, are you going to make us quarantine when we return? And of course, if we do that, if we make all of our staff quarantine that travel, it will be tough to operate our schools. And so we're looking for guidance because that will be a challenge. And again, the point may be moot. We may have lots of people vaccinated by then, and the situation may be entirely different.
It's also difficult to track who's traveling and where they're traveling, and you know, I would be depending on people to be forthright and truthful and.
Responsible.
Yep,
Sorry.
Well, I
Did
think
Me- did
either way this
Mexico-
goes, that's what we're doing, is we're depending on people to
Yes.
be wise and responsible in either direction. If you're traveling, and if you come back sick, like, we're asking that of our families every single day. If you've been exposed, stay home. If you're, you know what I mean, you're in quarantine. So I don't feel like that expectation really changes.
Can I ask, are you going to say, if we say nothing, if we say no, and then are you going to say nothing? Or are you going to encourage people, are you going to ask them one more time to be responsible? Do you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. We'll continue to, we certainly anticipate a lot of travel over spring break. And so we will need to reinforce the need. If you want to keep schools open after spring break, we need to be safe on spring break. Absolutely.
I don't check the CDC website because I'm going nowhere. Did Mexico change? Are they requiring a negative test as of like tomorrow?
It's all red, so it's
So they must
all,
have.
it's
Okay,
all.
I
it
believe
doesn't
so,
matter.
yes.
Yeah, and it wasn't that big date change like today or tomorrow, the 25th or 26th?
tomorrow, I think it's the 26th.
Okay, I was just curious.
So my personal feeling, and I'm not going to speak for everybody, but the very same thing that we did around Thanksgiving is we asked people for Christmas to be wise and to do what they can and to be honest when they come back. And I think that's what I am comfortable with. I'm not going to tell people where to go, what they cannot do. I don't believe that's our position.
So right now, we are really pleased with where we're at as far as the number of staff that are active cases or are in quarantine. Same thing with students. We're doing pretty well. Would we like it to be a little better? Absolutely. But right now, we're in pretty decent shape. If you took a look at the website on Friday, after we posted our latest results, and it will be updated again tomorrow, we're pleased. I hope I did not jinx it.
Well, let's then move on to virtual cold or snow days.
Sir, just looking to make sure we're all on the same page with this one as well.
Sounds like a good plan. I like
And so, as you know, a number of districts, when they have a snow or cold day, they are going to provide virtual instruction instead of having a traditional snow day. And so what we are planning for this year, if we have a snow day, a traditional snow day, and typically we don't call off school until the morning of when we have too much snow. And so we would not provide virtual instruction on that day. Students and staff would be off on that day. And then if we would have a cold day, and typically when there is a wind chill warning, we know that well in advance. The forecasts are very accurate. That gives us some time to plan for that virtual learning day. Obviously, when it's 35 below, sustained 35 below wind chill, not a lot of people out and about. And so we would provide virtual instruction on that day for school cancellations due to cold.
Good idea.
How does everybody feel? You like that?
Great.
Seems fair to me.
Just refresh my memory, did we build snow days into next year's calendar? Are we pulling out because of this?
So next year's calendar, we don't have technically built-in snow days, but we have built-in hours. So we have, for example, the elementary level, and don't quote me, I don't have this number right in front of me, but there are 21 additional hours built in to the calendar.
Got it.
So I think we are comfortable with that.
Sounds right. And then just noted on the back of that memo, you can see the history of school cancellations.
Yeah.
And just to demonstrate that I have called off school a number of times during my tenure as superintendent. As a matter of fact, there are 2 days missing. So if you remember the 18-19 school year, we had 5 days off.
Yes.
No, that,
Wow.
that just
And
filled
so
me, didn't it?
the rumors that
Polar
I'd never call off
vortex.
school are.
Polar vortex
What
trumps
he's
Sean
trying to
McNulty.
say is he does have a heart.
Yes. Not the Tin Man.
As long as it's 30 below.
All right, and then donor recognition.
Oh, yes.
Used to be 20.
So on behalf of the district, we want to make sure we recognize Nicole Agrisano of the United Way for the $100 donation to Parkview Middle School Helping Hands Community Closet. So Nicole is the vice president of the Community Impact Program for United Way, and those funds, that $1,500 will go towards purchasing food, clothing, and other necessities for students and families in need at Parkview. A really neat program, and we also want to give a shout out to Holly Bodish, Alexis Schultz, and Betsy Ducatz at Parkview. They secured that donation, and they also coordinate that program, a real program that's needed in these days, so nice job.
Fantastic. Sean, anything else from you?
No, I think that's it, except for executive session.
Sure. Board President report, I don't really have anything. Jill, if you want to recap briefly the WASB Delegate Assembly.
Sure. I attended the almost 3 to 4 hour meeting on the Delegate Assembly resolutions, which was very interesting, doing it virtually, and took our votes as we discussed to them. I think the only item of consequence that there was a surprise, at least to those of us who had a vote to go one way and went the other, was that they did pass the resolution to encourage school boards on the mascot logo imagery to start a process or be respectful of making a change. There were probably close to half a dozen presentations for people that were in support of this, and they were very, very well spoken and had positions where they believe it's time to make a change. So that resolution did pass, and the vote was 182 yes, 67 no. So there were 249 people who voted. I think that it maybe would have been closer if there would have been a full delegate representation. I mean, they had enough to have, they had a quorum to manage all these resolutions, but this was the very last resolution. It was the end of the day. It was 5 o'clock. And I mean, at the point that I looked, because you could see how many people logged in, there were like 275 people, and they had 250 votes. So, you know, whether people dropped off, chose not to vote, whatever. And not that it was close, because it wasn't, but just a point of reference. And any potential change on that as it would filter down to us, I'm going to let Erica speak to the details on the process, if we have to be concerned about it or be prepared to manage the situation.
Yeah, and we'll, I'm sure, be discussing that more in the future. And then also just want to encourage Cherry and Jill. If you haven't been to a convention before, it's like drinking through a fire hose. There's so much really great information. This year, for those of us that registered, it's available online all year long. So we're going to keep watching them, and we would love to come in to brief you with some of the information, because there's a lot of great stuff that I think we would all benefit from educating ourselves on. So
yeah. I'll just make one other note on one of the presentations I attended that was worth noting. I actually took a lot of notes on it, and it was by the school district, Howard Swamaco. Swamaco, and they are in the Green Bay area.
Yep, and so that's Bayport High School.
Right.
If you heard of them.
And they had a really good presentation. They called it board linkages, was how, as a board, they took the extra step to reach out to the community. Now, they are also, I believe, preparing for referendum, so I think that some of the way they handle their community relationships has a lot to do with that, because they're being very, very proactive. But I took some great notes that I'm going to review with Erica, and maybe there's some things worth noting that we may make some adjustments to, and just, I think, be smart about how some other people manage their business. You can always learn from it.
Absolutely. So in general, are there any other board member questions? Otherwise, we can take a motion to head into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Jeff, motion. Joel, second. Cherry, if you could roll call us.
Erica Connor?
Yes.
Mary DeMore?
Yes.
Joel Frederick?
Yep.
Andy Menke?
Yep.
Art Schneider?
Yep.
Greg Wirtz?
Here.
Jeff Vogel?
Yep.
Jill Warner?
Yep.
Terry Winchowski?
Yes. Okay, we'll take 2-ish minutes. I'll come right back.